My name is Emily. I live in a small house near the sea. It's a quiet town. The streets are narrow, lined with old stone houses and flower pots on windowsills. People here move slowly. They stop to talk, share fresh vegetables, ask about your day, and actually wait to hear the answer. There isn't much noise except the sound of waves and church bells on Sunday mornings. My house is small, but full of warmth. The curtains are white and dance with the wind. My kitchen smells like honey, cinnamon, and flour. Every morning before sunrise, I walk to the bakery at the corner of Rose Street. A little bell rings when I open the door. Mrs. Rose, the owner, always greets me with a tired but kind smile. She has been running the bakery for 30 years. She says bread is not just food, it is love that rises. I bake bread, cakes, and cookies every morning. When the sun starts to rise, the whole bakery smells sweet. People say you can smell the bakery before you see it. Steam floats from the ovens like tiny clouds. The walls glow with gold in the morning light. I love those moments when everything is warm, silent, and full of hope. Every day when I leave the bakery, I see the ocean. The sea is just a few minutes' walk away. The waves always move slowly, like they are breathing. The sky above is big and blue, stretching further than I can ever imagine. Sometimes I sit by the shore before going home, just to watch the water. It makes me feel calm. It makes me feel alive. One early morning, I carried a cup of tea and walked to the shore. The wind was soft and cool, touching my face gently like a whisper. The sea was still waking up. The horizon was faint pink and gold. I wrapped my brown shawl around me and sat on the sand. A young man walked by. He wore a simple blue shirt rolled up at the sleeves. His hair looked like it had been kissed by the sea breeze 1,000 times. He paused, looked at me, and smiled. "Hello," he said. "Hi," I replied. "My name is Liam." "Do you live here?" "Yes," I said. "I'm Emily. I live just up the road." He nodded, looked at the ocean, then slowly sat on the sand not far from me. We didn't know what to say at first, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. We were both listening to the sea. After a few minutes, he said, "I'm new in town. I work as a fisherman." I looked at him. "Do you go out far?" "Not too far. I have a small boat, small but brave." He smiled. He told me that he loved the sea. I told him I loved it too. We both turned our eyes to the horizon. We didn't talk for a while, but the silence felt good, like a soft blanket shared between strangers. From that day, Liam came to the shore often. Sometimes he brought coffee in small paper cups. Sometimes I brought cookies from the bakery, still warm and soft. We talked about many things: our lives, our dreams, our favorite songs. He liked old songs, the kind that sounded like stories. I liked handwritten letters and rainy mornings. I liked his laugh. It was soft and kind, like ripples on quiet water. One day, as we walked along the shore, he said, "I look forward to seeing you every morning." My steps slowed. My heart felt warm. "Me too," I said. Days turned into weeks. We spent more time together. Evenings were my favorite. We walked barefoot on the sand when the sun was going down. The sky became orange, then pink, then purple. Liam would point at the stars and tell me their names. "That one is Polaris," he said one evening. "It never leaves the sky. It always stays to guide sailors home." "And what about this one?" I asked, pointing. "That," he smiled, "is the one I don't know the name of. But it feels like it's watching us." Sometimes we sat on the old wooden benches near the rocks. I told him about my childhood in this town, how my father taught me to bake, how my mother loved to sit by the sea and read. He told me about his childhood near a harbor, how he learned to mend fishing nets, how he always dreamed of a boat of his own. Everything felt simple and good, like a sunset you never want to end. One evening we sat close. The sky looked like it had been painted with gold and rose. Liam turned to me. "Emily," he said softly, "I want to tell you something." I looked at him. His eyes were serious, but gentle. "I think I'm falling in love with you." My heart beat faster. I felt a mix of surprise, peace, and something beautiful. I smiled. "I think I feel the same," I said. He took my hand. It was warm. We sat there in silence, the sea in front of us, our hands together. It was the kind of moment that doesn't need words. From then on, we were together. We didn't say it, but we knew. The sea knew too. But life is not always simple. One morning, Liam looked worried. I noticed before he even spoke. "What's wrong?" I asked. "There is a storm coming," he said quietly. "I need to go out early and bring the boat back before it hits." I felt a cold wind inside my heart. "Be careful. The sea can be dangerous." He smiled, but his eyes were serious. "I will be okay. I've done this before." He leaned forward, gently kissed my forehead, and walked away. That was the last time I saw him. The storm came in the afternoon. The sky turned dark, almost black. Trees bent under the wind. Rain fell hard, like stones. The sea was wild. Waves roared like angry beasts. I stood by my window. I watched through the rain. I waited for his boat. I waited for hours, but it never appeared. The next morning I went to the dock. Fishermen stood in small groups, quiet, looking at the sea. A man whispered to another, "Did you hear about the small boat? It didn't return." My hands shook. I walked up to one of the fishermen. "Do you know the name of the boat?" He looked at me, then slowly nodded. "It was Liam's." My heart dropped. I didn't feel the ground under my feet. I ran to the sea. The waves were calmer now, quiet, almost peaceful. But there was no sign of him. I waited for days. I walked along the shore. I looked for anything, a piece of wood, a rope, a miracle. But nothing came back except broken pieces of the boat. They never found Liam. The town was kind. People brought flowers, soup, bread, notes with kind words. Mrs. Rose held my hand, but no words could bring him back. My heart felt heavy, empty, broken. I stopped going to the bakery. I stayed home, curtains closed, lights off. I didn't talk. I didn't bake. I didn't eat much. Grief is quiet, but it takes space. It fills your heart with silence. One evening, after many days, I walked to the shore. I sat in our usual place. The sky was soft orange. The sea was quiet, almost too quiet. I closed my eyes. "I miss you," I whispered. "Why did you go?" The wind moved through my hair. The waves came and went like they always did. I thought of his laugh, his smile, his hand in mine. I felt lost. Liam was gone, but the sea was still here. And so was I. Every morning after that, I went to the sea. I sat in the same place where we used to talk. I brought a small cup of tea like before. But now, I sat alone. One morning, I saw something half buried in the sand. A small notebook. The cover was wet, edges dark with seawater. I opened it carefully. Inside, I saw his handwriting. "If something happens to me, don't be sad. Look at the sea and smile." I was doing what I loved. My hands trembled. Tears ran down my face. I held the notebook close. I turned the pages. There were drawings of boats, little notes, sketches of waves, and short poems. On the last page he had written, "Dear Emily." If I had more time, I would have said this. "Thank you for the mornings, the talks, the smiles. You made my life full of light. I love you." I cried, but I also smiled. He had left me something beautiful. His words. His light. The next morning, I went back to the bakery. Mrs. Rose opened the door. Her eyes softened when she saw me. She didn't say a word. She just hugged me. "I need to bake," I said quietly. I want to do something with my hands. So I baked bread again. I made cookies. I felt the dough in my hands, warm, soft, full of life. The smell of sugar and cinnamon filled the air. It felt strange, but also good. Slowly, I started talking to people again. Sometimes I smiled. The world felt different, but not empty. One afternoon, while sitting by the shore, looking at the water, I whispered, "Thank you for your love, Liam. I will live with it, not in sadness, but in light." Months later, I told Mrs. Rose, "I want to open a small cafe near the beach, a quiet place, a place that feels like peace." She looked surprised, then smiled. "That sounds beautiful." With her help, I found a small wooden cabin near the beach. It was old but strong. The windows looked out at the sea. I painted the walls soft blue. I placed flowers on every table. I put a little shelf with books in the corner. On the top shelf, I placed Liam's notebook. I called it The Quiet Shore. On the first morning I opened, the sky was golden. People came in. They drank tea, coffee, ate bread and warm cakes. They talked softly. Some just looked at the sea. The cafe became full of life. And slowly, so did I. I did not forget Liam. I never will. But now when I think of him, I smile more. I remember his laugh, his love for the stars, his quiet way of being. One morning, a man walked into the cafe. He had salt in his hair and wind on his face. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning," he replied. "It smells nice in here." He ordered coffee and sat by the window. The next day, he came again. And again. His name was Noah. He was quiet, kind, patient, like morning light. Sometimes he helped me carry things. Sometimes we just talked. He never asked about my past, and I never asked about his. Our conversations were simple, warm, kind, like tea shared on a rainy day. One rainy morning, he stayed to help wash dishes. "Thank you," I said. He smiled. "This place feels like home." I looked outside. The waves moved slowly. The air smelled of rain and salt. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet and gentle, like waves that come and go, like words written in a notebook, like tea shared on a rainy day. Every morning, I still go to the sea. I still carry a cup of tea. I sit in our old place, look at the horizon and say, "Good morning, Liam," and I smile. Because love doesn't end. It changes. It stays in the wind, the waves, the light. And I know now, I will be okay. The sea is still here. And so am I. The cafe had now been open for almost a year. People called it a haven by the shore. Some came for the tea, some for the bread, but most came for the peace. The walls smelled like vanilla and wood, and soft music played in the mornings. The sound of cups and quiet laughter mixed with the sea breeze that slipped through the open windows. I had learned something in those months. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't happen all at once. It arrives like the tide, slowly, gently, smoothing sharp edges, one wave at a time. Every morning before the cafe opened, I walked to the shore, just like I used to. I carried my cup of tea. I sat where Liam and I once sat. I still whispered, "Good morning, Liam." Sometimes I cried, sometimes I smiled, but now, most days, I simply breathed, letting the wind fill the quiet space inside me. The town grew to love the cafe. Some said it felt like stepping inside a memory. Others said it was a place where hearts rested. There was something soft about it, something gentle. People started leaving their own notes on the bookshelf beside Liam's notebook. Some wrote poems, some wrote thoughts. One paper said, "I lost my mother 3 years ago, but this place helped me remember her with peace, not pain." Another read, "Some wounds do not need to be fixed, just held gently like seashells in the palm." One morning, Mrs. Rose came into the cafe with a basket of flowers. "Your place smells like hope," she said, smiling. Noah visited often. He never asked more than he needed to. He read books about the sea, drew sketches of the shore, and sometimes just sat in silence with a cup of coffee. It never felt uncomfortable. Silence, when shared with kind hearts, is not empty. It is folkwaho. One evening, while closing the cafe, I found him repairing a loose chair near the window. "You don't have to do that," I said. He didn't look up. "I know, but I like doing it." I smiled. Some moments aren't loud, but they stay. As weeks passed, Noah and I began to talk more. About the ocean, about loneliness, about things people rarely say out loud. One gray morning, he said, "Sometimes I feel like the sea is the only thing that listens without trying to fix me." I looked at him slowly. "I feel the same." He nodded. "Pain teaches us things, Emily. Not only about loss, but also about love." I thought of Liam, of the quiet mornings, of his notebook, of how he loved the sea more than he feared it. One day, a woman with a soft scarf around her shoulders came into the cafe while I was setting flowers on the tables. She stood by the window for a long time before speaking. "My name is Hannah," she said. "I heard about a notebook here." I looked at her carefully. "Yes. Would you like to read it?" She nodded. She sat by the window and read Liam's notebook quietly. After a while, she wiped her eyes, closed the notebook, and held it gently, like something precious. "My husband was a sailor," she said softly. "He loved the sea. He never came back." She paused. "I never said goodbye peacefully. I held on to anger. To why? But this notebook." Her voice broke softly. "It feels like someone finally said what I needed to hear." We talked for a long time. Not about loss, but about love. Because love, even when broken, still glows. Before leaving, she touched the notebook and said, "Grief is just love with nowhere to go, isn't it?" I nodded. "Maybe places like this help it find a home." She smiled. That night, I sat by the sea longer than usual. The stars were quiet. I remembered Liam pointing at them, telling me names, talking about sailors and the sky. "I hope you know," I whispered to the wind, "that your words are still helping people." It felt like something moved in the breeze. Soft, gentle, kind. Days turned into months. Life moved slowly, like the tide. The cafe began to feel like a place where hearts listened to each other. On rainy days, people sat near the window with books or tea. On sunny days, children played outside, building small sand houses while their parents watched through the window. Old couples held hands, travelers wrote in notebooks, fishermen left their boots by the door and asked for warm bread. And sometimes, Noah stayed behind after closing. We washed cups, arranged chairs, and talked. One evening, while we were wiping tables, he said, "You know why this place feels different?" I looked at him. "Because you built it with love that didn't disappear. It just changed shape." Something in my heart shifted. Quietly. Warmly. I thought of Liam. Not with pain, but with light. He was still part of me, but not in a way that kept me stuck. He had helped me grow. One morning, I sat by the sea like always. The sky was soft silver and pink. I held my cup of tea. "Good morning, Liam," I whispered, and then slowly I added, "Thank you." The wind moved gently across the water. A few days later, I wrote something on the last page of Liam's notebook. Love doesn't leave. It just finds new ways to stay. On the first anniversary of the quiet shore, the townspeople gathered outside the cafe. Someone brought music. Someone brought candles. People shared stories, laughter, and quiet tears. That evening, I stood at the door and watched people talking, smiling, sharing warmth like light. Noah came and stood beside me. "Did you ever think it would become this?" he asked. I shook my head. I just wanted to bake bread by the sea." He looked at me. "And now you are giving people something gentler, a place to feel." There was a pause, a soft breeze. Then, for the first time, I took his hand. Not because I was replacing something, but because my heart had grown room for something new. Not instead, but alongside. The sea moved slowly, like it always did. Some mornings still belonged to Liam, some evenings now belonged to Noah, and both belonged to the sea. I still go to the shore every morning, I still bring tea, I still speak softly to the waves. But now I don't only whisper grief, I whisper gratitude, love, hope. And the sea listens, like it always has.